Escape. Escape to the one place you remember. Escape back to the one that you've forgotten. Escape seems inevitable. For the chance that you can solve this for everything, there is a clue, a riddle behind everything. $10,000 will be granted to the one that can survive, the one that can solve all the clues, the one who can figure out if their death is intimate or if it is not. My friends, come and join me as we will try to escape the escape rooms and see if we are worthy to deem ourselves a champion amongst the people and amongst the survivors. Greetings, geeks and nerds. I'm White Universe and I'm White and Nerdy. And let me tell you, there is probably no better franchise for suspense unlike psychological horrors. The realm of psychological horrors can sometimes go from really great to really superb and then sometimes really bad. And the latter of the category has to do with two films that have the same name, the Escape Room franchise. Now, oddly enough, it's been a while since I've done a double feature or a multi-movie review. So, with that being said, I know I'm a little bit out of taste and a little bit out of reference to do these, but Escape Room was one of the films when I first saw the trailer thinking that this was going to be a pretty monumental film. Unfortunately, it was not as monumental as I'd expect it to be. So we're going to take a look at both Escape Room and Escape Room Tournament of Champions. Now hear me out before I get into the review. I was going to save this until October, since October is the month of horror. Until I realized that they're not really horror films, as much as they are just suspense, thrillers, and also psychological horror. So, with that being said, I think I'll get away with doing this early. And even if you want to consider this an early October present, then happy, very early Halloween. I hope you all enjoy. But anyways, before we talk about the sequel, let's dig into the first Escape Room and see why I don't like it as much as the other person does. Escape Room has a pretty really good story, all things considering, but unfortunately the story falls apart pretty quickly after we introduce our main characters. To make a short story even shorter than is necessary, there are so many people that get a surprise box. If they solve the box, they can figure out what it means and go to the escape room in question. The team in question has to figure out what the clues, solve the puzzle, and figure out if they can escape the escape room. Although an escape room is supposed to be a place of fun and mystery. Until ever so quickly it becomes relevant that they're not playing to escape just to escape. They're trying to escape with their lives before, unfortunately, they die. The story of Escape Room was something I was actually interested by. The fact that these are actual people going into this game and trying to figure out how to escape. Escape rooms do actually exist today, but they're for people's joy, entertainment, and often thrills. But this movie decided to take it a step further by having it be actually about escaping through the means of doing what you can possible, and even if a person must die, then die they will. But I've noticed that this shows two similarities to the Saw franchise, which is a franchise I have yet to see. I've tried to get into it, but unfortunately I just wasn't in the mood at the time, I guess. And also, one of my favorite movies of all time, which would have to be Final Destination, specifically Final Destination 2 for me. Now, this is definitely something that I've noticed because it becomes very relevant really quickly why these survivors were so important to be chosen. However, the film doesn't do anything when it comes in regard to getting to know our main characters throughout this film. So, all things considering, for Jason, Zoe, Amanda, Michael, and the rest of them, come down to, and also Ben, because I remember his name, unfortunately I forget the gamer dude's name, come down to only being relevant in one simple scene to explain we were all survivors that escaped death.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Uncle Scar. This movie pretty much was written by idiots who didn't know how to make a very good movie about a group of survivors trying to play a game to survive with their lives. However, despite my snarky criticism, I will say that this movie does have some pretty impressive scenes going for it, and particularly the escape rooms in question. Yet, unfortunately, this movie might not be for everybody, as it is mostly about characters trying to escape with their lives instead of just playing an escape room ad for fun. Unfortunately, I have to say that Escape Room is not one of the best films that I have ever seen. Nevertheless, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily going anywhere far. It did rise above my surprises, yes, but unfortunately, there's only one place where it rises above my expectation before unfortunately just getting to me because it ended up being pretty bad and necessarily the story in question. We know that we're supposed to care about the group of survivors. We know that these people have been selected for a reason. Unfortunately, by the time it comes into the film, I didn't care anymore what the survivors were doing. And especially that the film opens up to Ben, one of the survivors, trying to solve a puzzle, but then end up, as we expected, dying, doesn't give the film any more better of the benefit or the benefit of the doubt. See, I really wanted to go into Escape Room liking the film, yet unfortunately, I didn't like it as much as I did. And that's just me in personal. If the story was a little bit better, and if we focused on how the characters were all connected, truthfully, and kind of giving us a little of a divider, trying to show us different scenes before they're together, would have been for an interesting more story and also development. So, however, for me, you will find out my Vinyl Pop rating at the end of this video after I review Tournament of Champions. And let me tell you truthfully, my dear people, Tournament of Champions was definitely the better film, truthfully, above the original Escape Room, because I went into this with a fresh mind and about ready to be disappointed. But I'm glad to say this film didn't disappoint because it is so much better than the original. The film begins some years later with Zoe and Ben almost being a couple, which in truth I wanted them to be because, interracial couples are so cute, aren't they? After the events of the original film, Zoe and Ben decide to go to New York City to try and track down who was the inventor of the escape room and why they decided to trap these people. But suddenly the film takes a unique turn once it grabs a group of survivors from the original escape game, just off scene, and traps them in the train station for them to escape together in a new tournament. Already, the story had me very intrigued to see where it was going to be going, especially focusing again on Ben and Zoe, the survivors of the first film, which made sense to me. It did get better, including just on the train scene alone, which took about a few minutes, give or take, to introduce the new survivors, which I thought was a very, very unique thing to actually have happen. And of course, yes, there are people that do die in this. There is a priest that wants to redeem himself. There is a YouTuber or social media influencer, which I thought was very unique. There is a woman that suffers through a birth deformity where she cannot feel physical pain, which is an actual deformity that does happen to people. It's a genetic deformity. And we have another man who is named Theo that the people happen to forget his name. And the only thing that happened is that he had a hearing aid because he was on a submarine, and once they reached the air pressure, one of his eardrums went. As a deaf person myself, I felt for the bro. Then on the train, he got electrocuted. Suddenly starting to see why this was a unique touch, but to a character that a lot of people, because deafness is a common trait in people nowadays, including myself, or hard of hearing or hearing loss, it's such a common trait, you expected him to survive, much like one of the actresses from A Quiet Place. Fuck no. They decided to kill him off as quickly as possible, which did make me a little bit upset. However, I braved through the film, and I'm happy to say it did an amazing job of holding my attention. Congrats to the writer on this performance for writing out more unique and thought out characters for a reason why they all should be surviving together, so props and thumbs up to the writer of the movie. The film's escape rooms in question, however, could be better. There weren't too many like in the first movie that I really did enjoy. Mostly a lot of them didn't surprise me as much as the first film. However, with all of this being said, Escape Room Tournament of Champions was still fun for me to watch, including rooting for the survivors for the end of the film. Unfortunately, a lot of my favorites didn't end up surviving. This movie also did a great job at throwing a lot of twists and turns my way that I didn't expect to see coming, with a proper trilogy that might be in the making shortly soon. And yes, they do hint heavily that there will be a trilogy among these films, and I'm kind of hoping that it ends on a trilogy. I really don't think we need another Star franchise or Final Destination franchise made out of these films. While yes, they're good, there's still some slight problems with them, especially with Tournament of Champions, where a lot of the things that they threw in there is like, destroys everything that the original film had made. Not spoiling it in any way, but there are some other people from the original film that do survive, and then they end up saying how they exactly survived. One thing I gotta give the movie credit for is that they actually simulate or accuse the police department, maybe they control the police department, and that these people were on drugs, which was a really surprising thing to make a psychological horror film even more better. However, aside from like Donnie Darko and Candyman, which had done this superb, and still having people get to this day what really happened in both of those films, including the new Candyman that Jordan Peele happened to make, this one, nope. So, yeah, aside from me liking Tournament of Champions, it's not as good as I really wanted it to be. But both of these films are worth watching just to see if this is your kind of taste into it. Maybe for people that like the Saw franchises, you could get something out of it. I unfortunately did not. The story is lackluster, the actors and actresses were superb, they were really good in all their roles, and the director was pretty good, and the escape rooms, particularly in the original, were a lot better than in the sequel. I didn't really like a lot of the escape rooms because they were well, not as good as the original, I'm sad to say. They weren't really unique or fleshed out or had anything to do with the characters. Yes, there were some awesome puzzles or unique ones, but there is nothing that really influences the different characters. Like, for example, Joey, but it didn't come up until the end, is a plane crash survivor. Ben had to undergo surgery after a car crash, so you could have had something that had him almost undergo like surgery again, just to kind of reflect that. There weren't too many, or even the priest, questioning his own faith. Maybe have him in a church that would have him question his own faith, like maybe a riddle from like the biblical era. Unfortunately, nothing like that ever happened, and that really did not make the sequel any that much better. But the one thing that saved, or the saving grace for Tournament of Champions, was in fact the character development, which was so superb over the original. So while the original and the sequel have flaws, my rating of the original film will have to be an Emma Bloodstone. Because, well, it felt like a shotgun shot to the face after a while. Like, the film is good, yes, but it becomes so boring it feels like somebody just holding up a gun to your face and then just going katoosh. You will feel the sharpness pain, but eventually it will just get dull and just kind of drag on. Tournament of Champions was a really unique choice. I really did like the character development. The puzzles themselves were great. The escape rooms in question, not as great as the original, I'm sad to say. But it's still a good story all the way through, and I really did like the survivors in this. And of course, the ones that I was rooting for did not happen to survive, but I really did like what happened to the priest that got redemption after the film. Not gonna spoil it for you, but you'll be surprised what the priest does later on in the film and how he helps. I think her name is Rachel in the film. And I also really wanted Rachel to survive, and unfortunately, she was killed. Fuck you, movie. Fuck you. Every time I have a favorite character, even in anime, I'm like, I really like this character. Character ends up dying. Me. Why? But then again, Tournament Champion for me will have to get a magic. It's pretty good. It has a little bit of magic involved. And I really did want to give it a Sorcerer's Strange, but then after watching it again, I was like, no, no. So, for the writer and director of this movie, or writers and director of this movie, here's a few tips. Make the escape rooms much more sinister and menacing, so like the first film, and maybe have a few ideas or take inspiration from some people. Like, if you're gonna have a character, we'll just say, like, really into poker and gambling, and they ended up surviving an escape room, have them be in a casino where basically they have to bet for their life. Have it be like that Resident Evil 7 lost tape or bonus level with the guy playing poker or blackjack and his hand or fingers are being swiped off. Really unique to kind of go on that. It just popped into my head real quick. But I'm hoping that the third film might be better than the other two, although I'm not holding my breath in any hope of standards. It might prove as boring as the original, it might prove as a little higher up as the sequel, or it might be really, really down low and just not impress me at all. But we'll see when that time gets there. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out the Escape Room franchise. If you have checked out Escape Rooms, let me know which one was your favorite. Personally, I like Tournament of Champions. If you like the original Escape Room, let me know in the comment section down below. And really, these were surprising films for me, but unfortunately, while I like Tournament of Champions, they both weren't really that impressive to me. I just wish that Tournament of Champions was a little bit better than it promised to be. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Lady Universe, I've been White and Nerdy, and keep geeking on, my fellow fans, and until next time.